Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's behind the scenes here at the Shippensburg Historical Society. So if there's any student from the university that might be watching this, you might be interested in this if you're going to work into, say, the field of museums and such. So we're working on two new exhibits here, or I should say I'm working on two new exhibits here. The first commemorates the sesquicentennial of the Shippensburg University, because this is the 150th year of the university's existence. And then we're also doing the 30th anniversary of the Gulf War. And so as I'm getting all these ideas together, it was real easy for me to go ahead and think of things, but at the same time, for somebody else, it might not be as easy for them as far as like figuring out designs and your themes and sub-themes and so on and so forth. So there is a video on YouTube that'll help explain some of that, particularly with giving programs, but the same concepts can kind of go into the museum and such. So, but I just wanted to kind of give you a behind the scenes just for one exhibit here that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks. So I wanted to show you this. This was a museum that I put together in Blue Ridge Summit at a place called Monterey Pass Battlefield. I did all the interpretation as well as the layout of all the artifacts that you see. Unfortunately, when this group merged the Friends page to the Park page, the entire albums of the entire setup process, the whole layout, for some reason is completely gone. I don't understand what happened. I have a feeling that they probably just deleted the Friends page and went with the Park page that I helped create for them. So you can see I have some panels here as well as artifacts. The way the museum was designed is that everything goes up against the walls. That way the center of the floor is clear. That way, if they wanted to hold talks, they have a place to put chairs, or if they want to expand and build bigger cases for newer artifacts, they could do that as well. So here we have some of the sub-themes. You can't see it here, but I have a map of battlefield troops that I had a friend of mine work up. These I went ahead and I drew. So you got your theme, and of course the sub-theme here, never shall I forget the night. And then here I have some quotes by these individuals, including the gentleman who received the Medal of Honor several years after the Civil War battle was over. And you can kind of see things here. So basically, when you go into this museum, you start out with the organization of troops, down to the first gallery, which is a Summer of Crisis, which talks about the invasion of 1863 and the prelude to Gettysburg. And then from there, you go into the next phase of the museum, which deals with the preparations for the retreat from Gettysburg by the Confederate forces, as well as the pursuit of the Confederate forces by the Union Army that was still at Gettysburg. You get into this gallery here, and this is pretty much the troops as they were in the Cumberland Valley. So this was quite an undertaking here. The museum itself we built for about $100,000. The artifacts and stuff that you see here, we probably had about a $15,000 to $20,000 limit. And then the panels and such that I designed, and you may laugh at me, but I used Microsoft Publisher for that. The panels themselves cost about an additional $3,000 on top. So that's one of the interior looks of the museum. Here's another one here that I did. My friend actually drew this for me, and then I plugged all the other information into it. Here's another one, weather conditions, a night to remember. And of course, the reason why you see all the Christmas garland is because obviously we did this around the holidays. So I just wanted to kind of show you that. Here's what one of the galleries looked like. And of course, here's the front of the museum that we did. So that was kind of pretty cool for us to do. But then out on the actual battlefield, we have hiking trails as well as a driving tour. So I had to do a lot of these signs myself. So again, you have the main theme, which is obviously the retreat from Gettysburg. the sub theme, which deals with Longstreet's Corps, and this is just some of the history as well as some of their experiences. And then you have a photograph of the commander of that corps, as well as the divisional commanders, as well as the artillery reserve commander photograph. And here, this is after I had a good chunk of those signs made up. You know, we have the Underground Railroad before Gettysburg, the raid on Harper's Ferry. So this was real fun for me to do. And of course, I actually was able to come up with a story as well as edit some of the signs that I did not produce. Like this one here was sponsored by Michigan's Department of Natural Resources. So that was pretty cool for me to go ahead and be part of that during my stay up in Monterey Pass. So obviously with one of the exhibits, and I'm pretty much just going to go ahead and go over this with you. So usually when you have an exhibit, you have to have a title to go with it. So this here is 150 years of excellence in education, you know, celebrating Shippensburg University's subsequent centennial. So this is just kind of like an opening to our small exhibit. Again, as you can see, I'm doing the cheap way of doing things, which is through Publisher. But I can also use other programs as well. That way, pretty much what I'm doing here is I'm coming up with the themes and sub-themes. I'm designing everything to pretty much keep all the in-house cost down. This way, all I have to do is just pay for printing. Here's a history of the college from 1871 to current times when it's a university in 2021. So we basically have 5 different sub-themes going on here, from the founding to transfer, State Teachers College to university, and then finally the National Register of Historic Places. And then just to kind of lively things up as far as like the exhibit was concerned, I went ahead and did something called Journey Through the Past. This is a good way to kind of showcase photographs that, you know, because obviously I don't want the original photographs to be on display. So what I did is I went ahead and scanned them in, put them back in storage. But we have some items here from 1893 all the way up to 1931. 31 was pretty much where I stopped at. But I thought that this was a good indication of some of the events that the college has, or the university has done through its past. And I love this 1920s or late 1920s panoramic view here. And the one thing you can't really see here when you're looking at it until you blow it up, which is pretty cool, is the automobiles that are right here and right here. So this here is the entranceway to the Stewart House, which is our headquarters. And this is usually the area where we have temporary exhibits. And one thing that I'm going to introduce this year to this facility is interpretive panels, kind of like what you've seen with my years with Monterey Pass, and plus with what I did down at South Mountain State Battlefield. And so we have pretty good amount of space here, as you can see. But one of the things, you know, that's I kind of have to nail down in a hurry is the fact that some of the artifacts that are coming into the facility we don't own, they're being loaned. So we're going to have some stuff that's going to hang up onto the walls. But in order to determine how much of that stuff I can have, I had to do basically what's called a layout. So a layout, as you can see, is that you have the exhibit cases, some exhibits that are up on the wall here, but then I have the measurements of exactly where of the panel and exactly where they're going to go. And I'll do a close-up shot here of that in a couple of minutes here. Same way with over here. So this kind of lets you know where your interpretive panels are going to go at. That way when donations or loans start coming in, you know exactly where those are going to go. That way they're not interfering with the main themes here. So this is case number 1, and of course I got some materials laying here, so let me scoot that off to the side. So we're going to have the 150-year panel that goes here. And as you can see, I got some measurements here, how far away from the trim, as well as how far from the top of the case. And basically what I'm doing is I'm taking this panel here and I'm centering it with this case here. That way when I put my keys up, the key won't interfere with the sign. And then if, say, my loan that's coming in is a pretty decent size picture that's no longer than 36 inches, I have all this wall space here as well as over here that I can play with. Now, doing the layout of the actual exhibit itself, I should have went ahead and did a video on this because of the fact that I threw things in here, and then after that, as more things were coming in, ended up having to, rip more things out of here. But what we have here is a decent collection of artifacts that pretty much tell the story of the Cumberland Valley State Normal School from its founding all the way up to about 1921. And of course, when we did our labels, or when I did the labels here, rather than putting the interpretation in the case, taking space away from the initial layout, what I did was I printed it out. I have everything here, so when a person comes in, if they're handicapped or if they're small children or even somebody as tall as me, they'll still be able to look in the case and read that quite comfortably. So key number 1, as you can see, goes from the 1870s all the way up to 1921. And that was because I ran out of room for this artifact right here. So come over here. So case number 2, as you can see, we have a really good collection of some items here, some photographs from 1919 to 1920. And a lot of these people that you see here are probably going to be in that photograph there. So I have my key here for key number 2, and this is going to be from 1920 to 1930. And then you'll have the history of the university / college going all the way back to its founding. And again, I went ahead and you can see, so 15 inches from here to here, and then 14.5 inches from the bottom down to the top of the case here. That way it doesn't interfere with key number 2 that goes there. Now, the downside to this is I pretty much took up the entire wall here, but even still in the center, I should be able to fit something small right here if that loan comes in. Because out of all my keys, key number 3 is probably the largest, and that's because we have a pretty decent collection of items here from 1930 all the way up to 1980. And then once you get into like nowadays, basically from 1980 to the current, this is pretty much all we have, with the exception of we have a ton of buttons, but I wanted items that would showcase more of not only the college history, but also things that would tell a story, such as the LP record that's right here, or the letter here, judging the efficiency of teachers' work. So a lot of the things that are in the cases, obviously they're from our collection, but a lot of the items came in just recently, and they came in this box right here. So what we did was we basically laid everything out on the table, went through some of the items that I felt that could tell the story of the college, or maybe part of the personality of the college as far as like some of the students. So we actually had a really good collection of photographs that came in. This is all pretty much from one class, 1919 to 1920. And it belonged to a lady by the name of Edna, and I hope I'm saying the last name right, Stanley. So these are just some of the photographs of individuals that she probably went to school with. And here we have some of the items from when she was married out of college, such as her letterbox here, as well as Christmas cards, bills. But we also have other items in here that deal with when she graduated high school out of Chambersburg in 1915. So everything pretty much went through a quick measurement to make sure that everything could fit in the cases according to how my sub-themes were. And among two artifacts that were with the recent loans that came in were these newspapers from the Cumberland Valley Teachers College or the normal school. And these are kind of cool because this is 1926. And then this is 1927. So basically 11 months apart from one another. And of course, we'll put a small interpretive ID tag that's going to be right here. And then last but not least, to get people interested in coming in here when we do finally reopen to the public, once the pandemic is gone. Of course, you can come in now through reservations, but as we're doing outreach or folks that are coming in, you know, we have some material here that we're going to be using to kind of get people excited, or that they can take with them as a souvenir. And all this does, it promotes. And of course, I did this using a program called Canva, which is free to do online. It's the same program I use to do the newsletters, as well as most of my interpretive ID tags in here. And then, so you have some highlights of the exhibit that I put together now to kind of give a taste, to whet somebody's appetite down a little bit. But then on the inside here, we have the history of the actual university and college days. That way, it's a souvenir that people can take with them. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. But other than that, that's really a quick walkthrough on how I do layouts here. I'm getting ready to do the next major layout, which will be the Gulf War. Since it's the 30th anniversary of that, and I have a lot of really good things to showcase in that, because of the fact that that whole thing is being told through the eyes of a non-combatant who was there and experienced the war and saw a lot of the destruction and such. So until then, everybody have a safe time out there, be careful, and hey, we'll see you